Hello and welcome to the Bookshelf Odyssey. My name is Art and happy Victober. This is going to be my Victober TBR. For those of you who don't know, Victober is a monthly challenge where we read Victorian literature. We try to meet some prompts and challenges and all that fun stuff. Hopefully you know what that is by now. If not, I will be linking in my show notes all of the prompts, the co-hosts, all that good stuff. This year, we're celebrating 10 years of Victober. For this year, I've got a lot of fun things planned that I'll probably, well, let me talk a little bit about it. I will be doing a video with Kate Howe on her channel. And then she also had the goodness, she's coming on my channel as well. She'll be recommending a Victorian writer that needs some more love, needs more attention. So I've got a series of videos I'm planning, although it might only be 2. I guess that counts as a series. But talking about some Victorian writers that could use some more love, some more attention, because there are so many that are good, but they get drowned out by guys like Dickens and Gaskell and the Brontes and George Eliot and all those wonderful writers. I'll be doing some videos on Dickens. I'm really looking forward to. I won't say more than that because I'm still in the planning stages right now. But I know at least one video I'll be talking about my Dickens bookshelf. Where is it? Over here. And I'll also be talking about the Pickwick Papers, which is one of my favorite Dickens novels. Also, if you notice, I have a little statue or a little action figure over here of Dickens, and then over here I have Jane Austen. One of the prompts this year is to read a Victorian novel with a connection to Jane Austen, so she gets to share in the limelight a little bit this year. And I've kind of jokingly referred to these two as my good and bad angels on my shoulders, and I'll leave you to decide which is which. As is tradition for any respectable Victober TBR, I have overstocked it. I have a lot of things I'm planning to read, and let me go ahead and share what some of those are with you. First of all, I'll be reading my very first Charlotte Mary Yonge, and it's called The Stokesley Secret. I'll be buddy reading this one. I really had a struggle to know where to start with Yonge because she's written so many books, and when there's such a big variety, it's always hard to know where to jump in. So it looks like this one is more of a novella, but it is the story revolves around a lively group of children from the Merrifield family, focusing on their daily adventures and interactions under their governess, Miss Fosbrook. I'm actually looking forward to reading her, and if I have time, I might try a fuller length novel. Everyone I've talked to about Charlotte Mary Yonge just rave about her. So I think it's time to see what all the fuss is about. So there's that, and it looks like this book will help meet prompt 1 and 5, which is Kate's challenge of reading a Victorian book where friendship is featured, and Elizabeth's challenge, one of the other hosts, read a work by an underrated Victorian woman writer, meaning not the Brontes, Gaskell, George Eliot, Elizabeth Barrett Browning, or Christina Rossetti, etc. So it's possible it'll meet other challenges as well, but that's about what I figured on that. And then I've got some Anthony Trollope I'll be reading. First of all, let me get this big honker here. Sorry for the shaky camera, but I'll be reading from this Anthony Trollope's complete shorter fiction. I've already started reading it. This is September right now, and I'm kind of reading just one story a week. The first one I read was called Catherine Carmichael. It's one of his Christmas stories, but Christmas hardly features in it at all. It's really a story set at Christmas, not necessarily a story about Christmas. But it tells a story of a young lady named Catherine who lives in New Zealand. She's British, and she's in love with this guy who they're friends. but he's like real shy and doesn't ever confess his love for her in return. And things happen where she needs to get married, and so she ends up marrying this old grouchy man who is her friend's older cousin, I believe, and they end up moving to the middle of nowhere in New Zealand on a sheep ranch, where it's basically him and her, a servant, and an old woman who doesn't really do a lot for some reason. And it's in 3 short parts, and each part takes place on the success of Christmas or around that time of year. And she's living in an unhappy marriage with a very just grouchy, grumpy guy when he tells her one day that he's going to hire his cousin on to help out around the ranch. And so now you've got all kinds of drama happening and passionate hand grasping and all that good stuff that makes for wonderful Victorian melodrama. Honestly, I was on the edge of my seat reading this to see how it would play out. And part of me is like, this is just kind of like a soap opera, But on the other hand, I was like, yeah, but there's no soap opera is written this good. So it was a lot of fun. That's what I'll be doing through Victober. And I don't know what stories I'll be reading then. It'll be at least 4 of them I'll read next month. So that, and then I'll also be reading a Trollope novel called The Bertrams, which I don't have the book yet. It's coming in the mail, hopefully soon. The Bertrams is, it says on Goodreads, an unusual novel of world travel, in addition to the typical subjects of matrimony and money, social strata, couples, and relationships. Now, I have read all the Barsetshire novels as well as all the Palliser novels of Trollope. I've also read a couple of his standalones, but basically I went back and started going through all of his books, reading through all of his books chronologically, and more or less. I don't know a lot about Trollope's life. This shorter fiction book did say about the Catherine Carmichael series that at one point Trollope toured Australia and New Zealand, I guess, and then he wrote this short story as a result. And so it sounds like this book will also talk about some of the other places that Trollope visited back when he was alive. So this one met Mylina's challenge, which was basically spin a color wheel and pick a Victorian book that features that color, which so happened to be the color of the main cover of the book here. So that fit that prompt. I don't know, probably it will fit some of the other challenges, but it might actually help me meet Ross's challenge, which is empire spotting. Especially in travel, you can see that a lot. So I think that should be fun. Now that I've read through a lot of the more well-known writers, like Dickens and Gaskell, the Brontes, I'm looking forward to hitting some of these other writers, like Mary Elizabeth Braddon, Charlotte Mary Yonge, Wilkie Collins. I still need to work through a lot of his. And just kind of a side note, next year, I'm reading 2 of the last George Eliot books I haven't read yet. So I think it's Romola and Daniel Deronda are the 2 I need to read yet. So I'll be finishing up George Eliot next year, and then we'll be getting into some biographies and things about her. I'm really fascinated by her life, just what little I know of it. And she's one I'm really looking forward to digging into, her biography and things like that, now that I've read her books. Okay, sorry for that random tangent there, but the next book on my list, and I left that downstairs, is by Arthur Machen. It's The Three Impostors. This was one of the books we voted on for the group read that didn't win, didn't come close, but it was the one that actually sounded the most interesting to me. So I decided I was going to read it anyway, because sometimes I can be a rebel. Oh yeah. Anyway, The Three Impostors, I haven't really read much of what it's about, other than it looks like it is a episodic horror novel, and the tales are interwoven. And I understand that and I actually think I had to go and look this up. I had heard about this novel on Michael K. Vaughan's channel as part of Roger's Cheap Old Book Club, which it looks like he describes as a creepy episodic novel about three mysterious characters hunting a young man in spectacles. So yeah, I'm hooked. I'm gonna give it a try. This collection, I think, has other short stories by him as well, so I'll be reading those. Right in my wheelhouse of what I enjoy in Victorian literature. And this will meet Roy's challenge of reading a Victorian work of fantasy, which he had said fantasy, this would count. This is actually one of the books he recommended to fit his challenge. And then I have been doing a group read with Kate Howe's channel and her Victorian book club. It's Our Mutual Friend by Dickens. What I've really enjoyed is going from reading Dickens's first novel, I had just finished Pickwick Papers, to reading his last complete novel and seeing how the two connect or don't connect, or how his writing has changed over the years. And one thing that's changed is he's really become a master of the cliffhanger at the end of each weekly installment. I even saw on some level, as he wrote Pickwick, that even over that, he began to be better at knowing where he was going to end the story for that week's reading. But I'll be doing that, and that possibly meets Marissa's challenge, read a work of Victorian literature where a character experiences a change in class status, social mobility, rags to riches, fallen women, etc. And this book, I think that counts for this book. There's social change in that story. One character makes it rich by going through people's garbage, basically. It's a long story, but I've only read this one once before, so I'm looking forward to rereading it and seeing if my opinion of it will change. I remember it thinking it wasn't as good as some people were saying it was, but still enjoying it immensely. I mean, it's a Dickens. My argument will always be even a bad Dickens is a pretty good story. So I'm reading Our Mutual Friend, and then I'm also reading for some short stories. This meets Katie's challenge. Read a work of Victorian literature that is not a novel. So along with Trollope's short stories, I'll be reading Dickens's collection called Another Round of Stories by the Christmas Fire. And later in life, Dickens wrote Christmas editions of his magazine where he and other writers would get together and write short stories that weren't necessarily connected, but as a framing device, he would have like the first and last chapter, and then the book itself would be like we're all sitting around telling stories. So like Mrs. Lirriper's Lodgers, or The Haunted House is another one that Dickens and other writers wrote, and so that each explores that theme of a haunted house and what does that mean, from actual ghosts to a house being haunted by memories and tragedy and things like that. So yeah, I'm looking forward to reading that. Again, is it going to be really Christmassy? Probably not, because Victorians tended to write ghost stories at Christmas time, and so this is perfect for Halloween. And it's another Dickens, or at least Dickens created work, and I haven't read that yet, and I'm looking forward to it. When you've read almost all of your favorite writer, any little shred of paper or story you have left to read is always met with great excitement. So I've got a couple of Dickens on my list, as well as a couple of things from Trollope. I also have some possibilities I hope to get to. I'm really feeling a desire to read more short stories and shorter works. So hopefully through some of these short stories, I can meet some of the other reading prompts as well and achieve that and get all 10. But I'm not going to stress out if I don't this year. What I'd also like to read, if I have time, so consider this more of my pile of possibilities. I want to read the collection Dracula's Guest by Bram Stoker. I have read that story before, and it's kind of a sequel / bonus scene of the novel. But there's a collection of other Stoker stories in it, and I'd like to read that closer to Halloween, along with Arthur Conan Doyle's Gothic Tales collection. I want to read that perhaps closer to Halloween as well. I was thinking of rereading Elizabeth Gaskell's Gothic Tales. That was one I read for Victober a few years ago, and kind of my first introduction to Elizabeth Gaskell. The story, The Grey Woman, is still one of my all-time favorite short works of Victorian literature. You just got to read it. It's thrilling, it's harrowing, it's at times scary and fraught with tension. Do yourself a favor and read it. Speaking of Gaskell, there's still a handful of short stories and novellas of hers I haven't read, or at least I don't remember reading. And so as time allows, I might slip in a Gaskell here or there and just read some random stories I have yet to read of hers. I have a Kindle edition supposedly of all of her novels and novellas and short stories. So I'll just probably be So I'll probably just be picking and choosing from that and reading here and there. But I hope to get to a couple of Gaskell items this year for Victober. And then, just in case I don't have enough to read, I did share in a birthday book haul. I had a book about Currier and Ives, a company that produced well-known paintings and pictures of life of the 1800s in America. It is not Victorian in the sense that it's not British, but it's from that time period, and it's a subject I've been interested in reading more about. I love their paintings and their art style. I've had one, it's a reprint, but it was one taken from an old calendar that I just love that picture, and I actually have it framed and hanging up. So I'll be reading that as something to kind of give me something else to read if I need a break from all the Victorian goodness. And then a book I've wanted to read is called The Case of the Murderous Dr. Cream: The Hunt for a Victorian Era Serial Killer. So it's a nonfiction, true crime kind of story about a Victorian doctor, a serial killer ahead of his time. And it says that in the span of 15 years, Dr. Thomas Neil Cream murdered as many as 10 people in the United States, Britain, and Canada, a death toll with almost no precedent. Poison was his weapon of choice. Largely forgotten today, this villain was as brazen as the notorious Jack the Ripper. And it's written by Dean Job. And I've been wanting to read this for a while now, and so I'm looking forward to getting into that. I think I'll be doing it on audiobook, so it's something I can listen to while I'm at work. And it just feels like at the right time to get into that. So something nonfiction, but connected to the Victorian era with that story. And then that just about wraps it up. But wait, there's more. I can't get through October without reading something by Ray Bradbury. And I've been reading a little bit here and there from a book called Remembrances. And it's the collected letters and correspondence of Ray Bradbury. It's not all of his letters, because he was quite the prolific letter writer, but a selection of his letters that he wrote to people, and some of their response to him. And that's been a lot of fun to read, and I'm going to be continue to read that throughout October. I'm not really in any hurry to finish it. I mean, I'm only on page like 50 right now, and it's like a 500-page book, so it'll take me a while, but I hope to dip in here and there. If you haven't read Bradbury yet, do yourself a favor and pick something and read his works. Fantastic writer, very suitable for October reading. And then, last but not least, I'll be doing some required reading out of Garfield, Fat Cat 3-pack, Volume 3. I've got the first 2 volumes. I was able to pick up the third one for my birthday. Love Garfield. He's one of my favorite comic characters, and I'm looking forward to reading that through October as well, because what better way to balance heavyweights like Dickens and Trollope and all those with something very light and easy and fun. I think it'll pair nicely, if you will, with Victober. So I believe I did that last year as well with a Dickens book, or with Victober, and that worked really well. All right, that's my October TBR. It is wildly ambitious. Will I finish any of these? Who knows? So what I have coming up next, I'll have another episode of my podcast out on Sunday. And then the next video will be on October 1st, I hope, where I'll begin a series talking about little known or underappreciated Victorian writers. And then following that will be my first video in a series on Dickens I'll be doing through October, and I hope ongoing after that. But I'll be looking at some of his works that or some of the books I have on my shelf written about him. So some things to look forward to. All right, with that, this has been an epic video, but I'll go ahead and wrap up for now. So Victober is only a week away, and then it's one of the best reading months of the year. And then after that, the Christmas season really starts in full force for me. Boy, can't wait to get into that as well. What a great time of year. All right, with that, it'll be it. Take care. Let me know if you're participating, if you have a TBR, anything you want to talk about in the comments. Let's keep the conversation going. Make sure you like and subscribe. We're pressing on towards 1,000. I really would love to see 1,000 before the year's out. I have about 80 left to go. I think we can get there, so let's do it. All right, until next time, take care and happy reading.